It is so easy to have a conversation with you, and I think that's what people appreciate, is how easy it is to talk to you, and so that's why these happen.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. So while we're having this easy conversation, let's jump right into it and talk about some easy to use firearms.
Absolutely. So some of the most popular videos that we have are in relation to senior videos, because I like making those videos because my wife Laurel has grip strength issues, and my mother's older, and so it's something that is of interest, and it's clearly of interest to millions of Americans. So what is it, kind of generally, what do you think that somebody should be looking for if they consider themselves a senior and they were looking for a handgun?
So, okay, it's not just seniors, because I'm sorry, you and your wife don't even fit this. Some of my friends have been in terrible accidents and have crushed their hands and have diminished strength and grip in their fingers post-surgery, or maybe things didn't heal or set right. And, at some point, I know I'm going to get old enough where I won't be able to take the punishment of the .357 Magnum revolvers, and I just won't be able to rack the slides and do everything that I once was able to easily do. That's just life. It just happens.
Right, absolutely.
But you can still defend yourself with firearms.
Amen to that.
They make them specifically for people of all skill levels and all strengths. So what we have are kind of a selection of some revolvers and some semi-automatics that would work well if you don't have the superhuman grip strength or even standard human grip strength. So what I usually ask is what people are comfortable with. Can they operate all the features and functions themselves? Like, is it just going to be in one of those situations where they're going to tense up and all they want to do is pull, point, and shoot? I would highly recommend a revolver. If they are going to go through enough training or have had enough training in their life that they are comfortable working further mechanics required by a semi-auto, because it's not just as easy as a revolver. There is nothing simpler on the planet to own and operate than a revolver. We've spoken about that before.
Right, but what you're saying though is that if a person, even somebody like myself who has shot lots of semi-automatics, as I get older, I don't have to switch to a revolver.
No, you don't. You really don't.
Yes, yes.
So if that's not what your
love revolvers, but
I know, I do too. But if that's not what you're comfortable with, they do make semi-automatic versions for people with grip issues. And a couple of the ones I would like to talk about are a Beretta or a Taurus Bobcat. This one particularly is the Beretta variety, but there's a really cool loading and unloading feature for the semi-automatic that I think is just outrageously and adorably fascinating. So it's an easy to use button eject on the side, so you can take the magazine out. The magazine has tiny little tabs on either side for loading so that you can just pull everything down, and with one hand you could probably pull this down. That spring's pretty tight, so you may need a little assistance. They do make magazine loaders that help with that, but you should be able, if you're looking at a semi-auto, you want to be able to comfortably load the magazine entirely by yourself, because let's face it, you don't get that, hey, time out, wait 5 minutes until my neighbor, my family can come back in and help me reload this, and then come back at me. Let's go. But the hardest thing about loading a semi-auto to people with grip strength issues is pulling back that slide. The Bobcat and the Tomcat and the Taurus PT22, PT32 versions have a little lever. It's so awesome. It's located right by the trigger guard on the left side of the frame, and you flip this forward and magic happens, because boom, there it is. The barrel just flips up. You load one little bullet right in there. You close it back down. You are ready to go. It is awesome. There is a tiny little safety on the back. It usually has a red dot on it. You can see it on this one on the side.
Well, and something in regards to 22, like my wife, she would use a 22 not just because of grip issues, but because she has kind of more of a nervous system issue that if she was shooting a 380 or a 357 Magnum, like I think she'd shoot one bullet and she wouldn't never want to shoot again.
It's punishing.
So when she's shooting a 22, she actually enjoys shooting, so she's going to train more.
She practices
because
more.
She enjoys it.
And
right.
the more you practice, the more comfortable you are. The more comfortable you are with something, the more apt you are to use it in the first place, and you're going to know what to do in case the worst situation arrives. It's the same reason we have seat belts and fire extinguishers. You don't plan to get in a wreck, you don't plan to have a fire, but they're there in the event that, God forbid, you should ever need them.
Right. Now, if somebody wanted to go another way, they 22, they want to go a little more bigger than a 22. I think 22 is a great self-defense round. That's
Ask anybody that's been shot with a 22. Most of them,
right.
There's a lot of them that don't make it.
There are alternatives to that.
There are alternatives.
Yes.
In fact, recently Smith & Wesson came up with a semi-automatic alternative called, it's from their M&P line. This is the M&P 9mm Shield EZ, and it stands for an easy to load, easy to rack, easy to use. But when you have that many easy things, usually there are an awful lot more mechanical parts that you must remember to engage.
So again, go back to the experience, but it's really the idea is that people are making up to 9mm. You don't have to be limited to a 22.
This one also comes.
As a senior.
Yeah, it comes in a 380 if that's what's in your wheelhouse. It comes in a 9mm, and there's nothing to say that if that's what you're comfortable with, you don't have to stop shooting because
Absolutely.
You just can't use all the features of your gun anymore.
And those are very simple to use, and there's so many kind of like that. Like I love to see gun manufacturers doing that.
So yeah, this particular one, you have, like the 1911s, you have this backstrap safety, so you actually have to be able to grip and engage that fully for this to be able to fire. These are made with and without external safeties on them, so if you get a Pro Series, you're not going to have that extra external safety on the back. You are still going to have the grip safety on the Shield EZ, and you are still going to have all the internal safeties that all of these semi-automatic firearms are usually equipped with. You have, firing pin safeties, drop safeties, all internal in case it's loaded and it falls off the nightstand, out of the pocket of your car door, out of your holster, God forbid. It won't go off.
The big one for this is just really how easy it is to rack. I mean, that's so easy. That's what really kind of sold me on that is you don't need a lot of strength to be able to pull that off.
No,
and that's why most people will stay away from semi-automatics.
They have some really cool features on this too. The back of this is really nicely serrated, and then if you notice, it flanges out back here at the rear, and so you actually have a place for grip purchase. So, I mean, you're not just sitting there trying to, where your fingers just fall right off the back of it. I've seen it happen. I mean, but this has this positive feel to the back of it, so you should be able, if you're doing this correctly, I've got nobody over here, so we're gonna do this, and you can pull it back to load that first round in the chamber.
So easy.
So very easily.
Now, because I hate the idea that a new shooter has to go to revolver, or anything like that, or only new shooters use revolvers, because a lot of people carry revolvers.
Lots of people carry revolvers.
Obviously, that's going to open up all sorts of things for people to use, especially if somebody is very new to firearms.
Revolvers come in a lot of different calibers too. So once again, if you're not comfortable with the punishment of a 38 or a 357 Magnum or a 44, they make revolvers in all calibers down to a small 22 and all the way up to a 460 Smith & Wesson.
I found that earlier. Yeah. I was going to throw in a joke about the 460
So
I already got it on. You're all on the record.
So just in case, you needed to take out that zombie bear cavalry that's coming after you. You could, but there's a reason that these have the muzzle brakes on the end of them, the bipods, really, really comfortable grips on the back end. That's not for somebody that has a whole lot of grip issues. We're just going to pass that on down the line. Right?
But revolvers, that is a great option for people. I think regardless of your situation, and the thing that I love about a revolver is if I was to buy a handgun for my mother, first it would be a revolver, and I put a 38 in it, is what I would do. That is just what I do. But I know she would be able to make that work.
My mama's...
and I think she'd do great with it.
My mama's home defense is actually a revolver, but she's got some wicked grip strength from probably boxing me and my brother and my dad around as we need from time to time. But hers is a Taurus Judge in 45 long Colt and 410. She carries a whomping big old revolver.
That's awesome.
You don't mess with mama.
Well, and one last thing just to point out is that with a revolver is that because people ask, like you brought up earlier, well, does it have a safety on it? And the thing with the revolver is and they're usually asking, well, does it have a manual safety, of course.
Yeah.
But the thing with the revolver is that because every shot, unless you pull that hammer back, so technically the hammer is like a safety, or the double action trigger is very much like a safety. You just can't just accidentally squeeze a double action trigger.
We've got these really awesome little revolvers, and every single, to my knowledge so far, almost every company that makes a revolver for carry will make a double action only. That means that every single trigger pull is probably going to average somewhere around 12 pounds a pull. You cannot actually get to the hammer, which is great. Nothing can snag if you're going to carry it, but every single trigger pull on that.
So it's that's about as safe and as simple as
you have to have intention to pull that.
Right.
And not everybody can do that. I mean, I've had people that come in here, ladies and gentlemen, that just can't even pull it with a single finger, and you can't get two fingers in there and pull it.
My 19-year-old daughter couldn't do a double action Taurus that I had. So that's something you do got to think about as well.
They do make the single action, but you still have to have, this is a single double action. So you can either do the double action trigger pull where you do not cock the hammer back first, but you can see when you pull it, that hammer in the back, it moves with every single trigger pull. The same thing's happening with that double action only. It's just internal, so you don't see it. This one allows you to pull the hammer back, and it pre-cocks this trigger back, and you get a very, 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 very light trigger pull. You don't leave it cocked like that. That is not how you
go back to the training.
Please, yes. That is not. If you were practicing at a range or something, and you had the option to do that, but that is not how those were intended to be carried at all. And when you carry, if you carry, should you carry, please find a holster that will cover not just the trigger guard, but all of the trigger too. The number one safety on every single firearm is your amazingly brilliant, beautiful, wonderful brain and the ability to keep your booger hook off the bang switch. If nothing touches that trigger, they don't go bang. we're standing here in a store full of firearms they're not going bang. Nobody's touching the triggers. They don't just go off by themselves. No gun just goes off on its own.
So really, in the end, it kind of just comes down to your experience, your comfort level. But go out and investigate.
You have tons of options.
Just don't buy randomly.
And you're not limited to just for the ladies and the gentlemen.
And
you're
we just
not.
showed a few. This is an example of really. You don't have to only do a revolver. You don't have to only do a 22. There are so many.
There are revolvers that actually come with.
Revolvers are great again.
They are. I'm sorry, we know we both have a soft spot for revolvers. They're so freaking awesome. But you can get options on all of these that come with or without lasers. Your revolvers can get grip lasers on them. If you don't like the color, you're not married to that color. Change it. Get one that has really pretty different colored grips, or maybe you want that cool American flag paint job on there. You can have whatever you want. You're not just stuck with a basic black gun or a basic silver gun. They make them in all colors of frames. They make them in all colors of grips. And there's nothing, if you don't like the way it feels in your hand, you can change the grip on a lot of these, especially revolvers. They make some grips that are longer with finger grooves. They make some that are nice and small, if that's what your cup of tea is. You have options. You have so many options. So you should start to look at some of your options, shop around.
Well, and another piece would be, don't necessarily take the advice that your loved ones give you, because what's good for them is not necessarily good for you.
I love my parents. I love my parents dearly. I love my whole family. I love so many of our customers here. What they love, what I love, not the same thing. So you have to find what is right for you. And I swear I watched thousands of videos and I got so many recommendations from friends and family. You need this, you need this, you need this. Why do I need that one?
Right.
What can you tell me more than, well, it's the most reliable firearm out there?
Well, Maggie, gosh, thank you so much. That's good information, and we really appreciate you always helping us out with that stuff.
It has been always such a pleasure to do this. This is fun.
Well, let's keep doing it.
It's supposed to be fun.
That's right. Oh, well, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
We'll
Thank you for stopping by.
Absolutely. Talk to you next time.
Bye, Mark. Bye, everybody.